head coach of the Clippers, president of basketball operations, Doc Rivers, back on the program. How are we feeling today, Coach?
Well, feeling pretty good, Dan. I would rather you be talking about us, but other than that, I feel great.
Can you watch the finals?
Yeah, I can. There's some years you don't watch, and you watch in the middle of the summers, but I basically have watched every game. I watched the Oklahoma series, which was an amazing series, and I watched the first two games. With Ty Lue being the coach of the Cavs, I have a vested interest in this series.
All right, coaches talk about this with you play Golden State and you think you're doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden you look up and you were down 3, now you're down 13. As a coach, and you've experienced this firsthand, what is that feeling like, and how do you stop it?
Well, it's not a great feeling. I can tell you that. Yeah. You got to keep playing them. Like, they're a great team, and they're. And I said this last year about them. They have the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of the game. And when you have that, they're never out of a game because of their shooting. And when you play them, you feel like you have to be great defensively, obviously. But I think you have to be great offensively when you play Golden State. I thought Oklahoma had the right, at least, recipe for most of it when they are attacking. I think that's the right way. No one's done it enough to beat them 4 times, but I thought that was the right way to play them.
Do you think Klay Thompson feels he's every bit the shooter Steph is?
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that. You saw that in the three-point contest. That's what you like about them. Like, we talk about all their shooting, and I think their defense gets overlooked a lot. I think the two things that people miss most with Golden State is how competitive they are. I mean, they compete on every possession. I didn't even think it was close last night, the competitiveness from one team, when you look at the one team to the other team. Yeah. And yet, through all that competition, they have a great chemistry. And their chemistry beats you as well.
I brought this up to Jerry West. He quickly shot it down. I said that, Steph Curry reminds me of a Pete Maravich with more range. And Jerry said, no, that's not the comparison. I don't know if there is a comparison. We love to have a comparison to say this guy reminds me of this guy. I'm just not sure who that guy is. Is there somebody that you played against or you remember that maybe Steph sort of resembles?
Well, like I told his father, he reminds me of his father, except for he can dribble. That's it. I mean, his father was a heck of a shooter, and probably people didn't realize it because he couldn't dribble like that. And my guess is when Steph and Steph were little kids, Dale decided, I'm going to teach these kids how to dribble. Because if I could have done that, I could have been this. So I'm going to say Dale.
But I also look at Nash, that I think and I think Steph has acknowledged that he looked up to Nash and the way he played, and Steve's ability to pass and have you off balance to get those shots. Now, he didn't, Steve Nash didn't have the range that Steph has, but I do see a little bit of similarity in their games. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, there is. I think Nash is probably more of a genius with assists, and Steph, does everything as well, but I think Nash is a little better in that way. But I think Steph does so many other things, but you can see the similarities for sure in Nash's game. I think Nash has influenced a lot of players. That is a sign of greatness when you see a lot of other players after you retire, and they play similar to you. And so that tells you that Nash was a great player.
He's Doc Rivers, Clippers head coach. Has the Clippers style impacted your coaching style?
What? Oh, you mean Golden State style?
Yeah. I'm sorry. The Golden State style, has it affected anything that you've done differently in the last couple of years?
Well, it influences you, but I think the mistake people make quite often in our league, since I'm in Hollywood, I would say, in the movie business, one person makes a great movie, and then for the next 5 years, we see a bunch of bad movies that are trying to be that one great movie, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
And I think it's done every year in the NBA when a team wins it. When we won it in Boston, everyone tried to copy that style. And, Golden State has perfected their style, and there's no one that's going to be better at it than them. And so I love their movement. You know, I think one of the things Steve did was, I always thought they were a great defensive team. I don't think Mark Jackson gets enough credit for what he did for them defensively. But what Steve did, he came in and really changed their offense. When you think that Curry gave up the ball almost 20% of the time more last year than he did the year before, and he scored more points by giving up the ball, and he was the MVP by giving up the ball, it just tells you how great their movement is.
So where the commissioner talked about the Hack-a-Shack and that he wants to do something about that.
Why are you bringing that up to me?
Let me see your free throw shoot. Oh, that's right. DeAndre Jordan can't shoot free throws, Coach. What do you think about that strategy? Now, can you remove yourself as the Clippers head coach, having a guy who is free throw challenged, and look at it just as an analyst? How are your opinions different as the coach and as an analyst with that getting rid of the Hack-a-Shack?
No, they're pretty much the same. But I would say it has evolved. You know, I was one, even with DJ, I said it publicly that I didn't think they should touch the rule. But listen, at the end of the game, we're in the business of we want people to enjoy the product, and it doesn't look good. The games take forever when they happen, and people don't enjoy it. I'm in favor of changing the rule, but I'm not in favor of changing it completely. I don't think we should completely bail out the shooter. I think we should have, we've changed this rule before, so it's not like we've never changed it. So I do think we should alter it, but not to the point where you let them off the hook completely.
But, Coach, I don't understand that you could have a guy who could shoot 45 or 50% overhand, and if I said you can shoot underhand and shoot 60%, they'd rather miss overhand than make underhand.
Well, it's like you with the long putter, Dan. You know, a lot of
it's
the
true.
pros,
Yeah.
when the long putter was in, they didn't want to use it because it looked bad. I agree with you. You know, when I played with the Hawks, Rick Barry was our a reporter, or he did the commentary of the games, and when he shot with us all the time, and it was amazing to watch. Having said that, I don't think it's as much technique as it is mental. I really believe that. I think it's more of a mental challenge. Once it gets in the head, I think you can work on it all day, and you see very little changes. There have been some guys that have been mentally strong enough to break it, but I've always thought it's not form or technique. These guys do the work. I watch DJ shoot every day, but I think once it gets into your head mentally, I think it becomes very tough.
I know Muhammad Ali had a big impact on your life, and would love to hear your thoughts. First time you met him, where were you? What was that like?
Well, I have a great first time I met him. I was being recruited by Louisville, and in high school, and Denny Crum and their entire coaching staff, when they did their house visit, they looked at my room, and the only posters I had on my wall were Muhammad Ali. I didn't have a basketball player, a baseball player, anything. It was just Ali. And I'm sitting at home, 3 or 4 days later, and the phone rings, and it's Ali on the phone. So that was my first, I guess, meeting with him, which was for a young kid who idolized him. I mean, I cried the night that he lost to Joe Frazier. So he's had a huge impact on my life. I think he's had an impact on a lot of people's lives, and not just from boxing. It's more, his humanitarian role. And, I think for black kids growing up in that time in the 70s, I think he made it all right. I said something similar that, you were all right for me to be me. You never thought that you were good enough, growing up at times as a kid. And I think Ali just made it all right for you to be you. And I thought that was awesome from him.
Why? And then you have to say no to Louisville after that?
Yeah, and they win the national championship that year. Only one guy leaves, and I could have just slipped right in. But listen, Al McGuire and Rick Majerus and Hank Raymond, they're better recruiters, I guess.
Oh, then Ali's the greatest, promoter of all time. So does he?
Yeah.
How long does the conversation last where Ali's trying to recruit you to Louisville?
Well, it it didn't last. It lasted probably a minute, 2 minutes, and he really talked more just about, he asked me any question I wanted to ask him, and what is a high school kid? You're nervous as heck. So, you're the typical stupid questions that a kid would ask is what you would ask.
What did you ask him?
Well, the first thing was I asked him how tall is he. It's a dumb question. How long are your arms? I mean, when you hang up the phone and you think about it later, you're like, wow, I blew that opportunity in a big way.
You could have asked him, what's it feel like to get punched by Joe Frazier? Or
I wanted to ask that. I actually told my friends I did want to ask that, but I didn't have the courage to.
So do you tell your family? Like, does your family know that Ali's on the phone?
Oh yeah, my mom and dad did. It was awesome, and obviously they were going crazy. Back then there was only one phone in your house.
Yeah.
It's not like we had a cell phone. There was a phone that was on the wall, and that's the phone I'm talking on. You think about it, there was a 50% chance that the phone could have been busy because everyone's phone was busy back in that day.
Well, plus if you had two phones in the house, they could have listened in on the conversation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's the great thing about cell phones. I'll say that.
Hey, Doc, always great to catch up with you. Are you going to the Summer Olympics?
I'm not. I went the last time, but with the extra rows, I got to build this team. Dan, Are you watching Golden State right now?
Yes.
I have some work to do. I have a lot of work to do.
Thank you, Doc. Good to talk to you again.
Nice talking to you.
All right, that's Doc Rivers. That's great stuff. Continental Tire Coach's Corner there with Doc Rivers. From rain to snow to sun, everything in between. Continental Tire. It's the best tire out there. We love these people. Continental Tire is engineering tires, extraordinary performance, reliability, putting confidence into driving. For more information and the location of a dealer near you, visit ContinentalTire.com. Continental Tire, for what you do.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.